Yo, we back in the building. What it do, what it is, what's up? This is LocFam Kingdom Diaries back in the building, one at it again. We have a special guest here today with us. Our first guest. You guys get the luxury of being our first guest. Wow.
Podcast. I love it.
Yes. So you know you can't talk without this mic, honey.
Okay.
So hello everybody, Sani Bunani.
Thank you for being part of our family. My name is Pumla, the Lady of Power.
And my name is Jave, aka Grandmaster Bugsy. And together we are the Boardwalkers. I don't know. But we're not going to worry about that. We're going to keep moving forward. So we have our special guest today. Today we have
Jeanette.
And then we also have here
Matthew.
You gotta use the mic, man. Use the mic. Use that mic.
It's Matthew.
Yeah.
Right here.
So we have our lovely
flesh.
couple here with us today. We're gonna ask them a few questions and just kind of shoot the. Well, I don't want to say the shit, but shoot the shit. You know. And we're just gonna have a good, meaningful conversation and get you guys to see certain aspects of how we do things as couples who are we're all building here, and so you get to see different perspectives, and you might be going through the same things in your relationship. So long story short, let us get started with the whole show. Honey, you want to see anything to say? Here you go.
No, I don't have anything to say, but I'm ready to ask the question.
Dun, dun, dun.
Bring it on.
Okay, the first question is, what's the biggest lesson you have learned so far, and how has it shaped your relationship?
What's the biggest lesson that we've learned?
Yes.
And how has it shaped our relationship?
You could
I
also choose.
think
Quite a bit.
quite a bit for sure. But I think for me the biggest thing is communication.
Mm-hmm.
When we both are able to express how we feel,
Yeah.
Love it.
It makes things so much easier because I know how he feels, or he knows how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we both know how to navigate whatever situation that we're in. And the biggest lesson I think is definitely not expressing how we both feel, or myself. I think I'm big on how I can figure it out. I'll be okay, or I'm fine.
Right.
But then when he knows exactly how I feel, he's able to work with me based on how I feel that moment,
I love
and
it.
it helps us.
That's amazing. That's such a great connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Do
about
you?
you, man?
Oh, I was about to.
Yeah, no, it definitely takes time, I would say.
Yeah.
I think within time you learn those attributes in your relationship.
Yeah.
Being able to know how each other responds to different things helps you communicate that better. And that's something you don't really have in the beginning.
Yeah.
I would say it's like it's building steps. In the
Yeah.
beginning, you're kind of figuring that out. Once you do, you can kind of keep it trucking, keep
Yeah.
it moving even better. And I would say, other than that, just communication. I would say patience, gratitude. It's a huge part, I think, which is best communicated for sure.
Yeah.
But knowing your partner, doing that dance of just having all the, making sure you are patient and grateful every day for what they do.
Yeah.
Versus other things or other mishaps in the relationship, which we all go through.
Right.
I think just understanding, patience takes you super far.
It does.
And you can only learn that within time. So
Absolutely.
that's something you can always count on if you're in the early stages, I think, is just being like, okay, how does this best meld with me?
Right.
Vice versa.
Yeah.
And then just general gratitude, right? Just
Yes.
even if you are just a solo person out in the world, or
Yeah.
you are a couple.
Yeah.
True.
Having gratitude every day just makes you wake up better, makes you
absolutely
make breakfast, make some waffles, do those kind of extra steps because you know what, I'm feeling it today and I'm feeling grateful, and God has given me guidance throughout this week. And patience is, like I said, it comes with time.
right.
But yeah, that's probably the best thing, out of any ups and downs or anything like that. I think that's the most that strengthens the bond.
Yeah.
And you really see it happen in real time, and that's that relationship between two people is really like one of the center pieces of where God exists.
Absolutely.
In your life. Like when
Absolutely.
you really have that connection and
Yes.
that understanding, those little small moments is like where God peeks out,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
and the wide, vast world we live in, and complications, whatever. It's
Yeah.
just like that's where you really see it the most. And
Absolutely.
That's what keeps us hanging on. That's what keeps us all here.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
So,
Well said.
yeah.
All right.
Cool. Yeah, well said. I loved it.
Appreciate
The next
As for you want to go to the next one? I was just gonna like chime in like on our perspective too, as what we go through or as things like that. You got this. All right, I'm out here by myself, y'all. I'm on the boat. Like, yeah, you
Yeah.
got this. We're here. Team support out there.
left one paddle.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say the lessons that we learned was communication too, as well. We already had a very firm, good, foundation when it came to communicating, but it was more of understanding our language barrier.
Yeah.
And we didn't have too much of a problem with the language barrier, but it was more of like certain phrases that I use, she didn't understand, so I had to articulate what I meant.
Yeah.
Right? And then same
man.
for her as well. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so just getting clarity that way, if I do use that in my vocabulary, now you're more aware of what this means when I say this, and maybe even not come from a place of come from a place where you feel like you're being disrespected, or per se you just confused, whatever the case may be. So we had to lay down a lot of foundation when it come to that. It enhanced us very much, though, being able to express our thoughts when it came to our ideas, when it came to longevity, the vision, what we want to do, where we see ourselves going. Communication is it's a vast variety of different settings to explore within communication too as well, and that's what we are continuously learning, because it's a lifestyle as well.
Right.
And exactly. And there's certain times when, like, even dealing with finances, and like we were having a podcast not too long ago, we were talking about something else about finances, and was saying
We're talking about the love talk.
it was love talk, and we were talking about that was
Love talk, yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, we were explaining. I forgot about that. We were explaining. The love talk, like on our lives, like what is a love talk and how do we do love talk and how do you go about doing love talk.
And so, long story short, I was gonna say we was expressing the levels of finances to where, it's not just about us paying the bills and stuff like that. Like, where do we see ourselves? How much do we see ourselves having? How do we invest correctly? What do we want to invest in? How we direct the money going there? What should we stop spending on? Make sure that we're both aligning on our finances where we want to go. How we're going to make this money multiply. Long story short, the verbiage and communication with that and that wasn't just the basics of what we both live with, living with roommates.
Down and talk about this is a waste of time, but then it only takes about a minute or two to really have like a sit down discussion of your whatever was holding resentment or whatever is bothering you that week, that day, and it just really helps find closure in certain situations where if you don't communicate, and it's really important. There's definitely people out there that might just get mad and slam the door on each other, but people that are willing to sit down and have the patience to talk to one another, and right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing the most right now. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was looking at her. But I think, I think that is, in certain times of conflict, if you will, if we just sit down and talk about it, we're both older now. We both have had past, relationships, past things, so we've known how we go in and out of those kind of scenarios with other people.
Right.
And once you understand that, you're not just yourself. You're a part of this unit.
Right.
That's not like, I'm not going to be disrespectful. I'm going to walk over here. I'm going to go in my room. I'm not going to, But you are part of that unit, so you gotta stop and say, hey, we need to talk about this.
Right.
Let's sit down and let's talk our differences.
Absolutely.
And in the beginning, it's awkward. It can seem silly, but it helps so much. And I think, definitely in our relationship, there's been times of that, and we've been able to really help resolve a lot of differences, a lot of things that maybe we don't see eye to eye about, which is totally normal, totally understandable.
Absolutely.
So, I think that aspect of it is really important with communication. Has helped us a lot.
Yeah, normal-wise, it is normal. It is normal. It happens everywhere. You can't say that it doesn't. People can't say that. We don't go through that. Everybody goes through that. It's just the way how you want to resolve it and how your communication skills is in your relationship.
To be able to articulate whatever your emotions.
Exactly.
Articulating is very important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Direct a question towards Janet.
Janet, do you want to answer?
Ask the question again.
Reiterate. Okay, the question says, where is it at? Can you share a moment in your relationship where communication made all the difference?
Share a moment where communication has made a difference.
Yes.
All the difference. I think for me, I usually feel like, I got this and I can handle things and I know what I'm doing and and that also has to do with past relationships where you just be like,
You gotta take the whole load.
you just like, I got this, I'm doing this by myself, whatever. And then you get into a relationship, my current relationship, where it's like, this is healthy, this is more calm, this is a safe space, this is where I can express myself. There's nothing wrong with me expressing myself. I think I don't usually communicate not that I don't usually communicate, but I'm not a person that's like, oh, I'm sad because of this, I'm sad because of that. I'm just like, man will ask me all the time, are you okay? Are you okay? He's always trying to check up on you. Okay? I'm like, I'm okay. But I know that when I take moments to say, I'm feeling this way because of that, he helps me.
Right.
He helps me walk through whatever that it is that I'm feeling at that moment. And whether it's emotions that I'm going through, he helps me figure that out. Whether it's things that we need to work on, that he has control over, we work on that. And it's things that it's just, sometimes we just think about all these things in our heads that we can't even control.
That's true.
But I think the moment where things changed for me was when I said to myself that it's okay, this is safe for me to express how I feel.
Right.
And when I feel anything at that moment, when I just express it, and he understands it, and it's not as crazy as I would have thought. Because the thing with us is that you carry what you have been through, and then you get with somebody else, and it's like, this is how I am, and then but this person is reacting differently towards you, and it's like, this person's like, how are you feeling? What's going on? What do you need from me? And then you're like, I'm okay. I got this. And then the way that they react towards that it's just soothing, because as people I realize that we heal when we feel heard.
Yeah.
You know,
That's true.
When
When
I
you-
feel like
when you
he's
talk about
hearing what I'm saying, I heal, and vice versa. When I hear how he feels, he always says that I'm glad that we spoke about this.
Yeah.
He's big with communicating.
Right.
I'm still learning on it, but Matt, I feel like he's big with like let's talk
Communicating,
about it.
yeah.
So I think the biggest, I wouldn't say there was a specific moment where I'm like just like, oh, communication really changed things, because I'm an adult. I know that we should be communicating.
Right.
But I know I can't really remember the specific details. But I was supposed to do something with money,
Yeah.
and I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and I was very nervous about it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, how am I gonna tell him this? And I told him, and it was not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
In my head, I was going through so much.
Right.
And then when I gave it to him, when I gave him the situation, he was like, oh, okay, that's okay. And I was like, why was I always so stressed out in my
Right.
head about things? Because we assume how people think and what people are feeling about us, but
Exactly.
you don't communicate, and then it becomes this thing in your head, which is like,
Yeah.
become all stressed out. But
Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
I would say that what you just said about communication being like healing. Okay. Like healing. Wait.
Alexa, turn volume to 7. I feel like when you were talking, it was super loud.
Yeah, it was.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I think it was a song.
Like, so she hit that pause. I'm like, all right, thank you. She just jumped right in. I'm like, damn.
I saw you like, I saw that. I saw
I
that.
actually wanted to say that I wanted to stop you when you said that communication is actually healing, right? Like the way that was actually a great way to define communication.
Yeah, it
because
was.
most of the people don't understand communication. They think that you just have to say something to someone.
Yeah.
But communicating like internally, like from your gut, saying how you feeling and telling someone how you're feeling. That's why therapy is also important, because you talk about how you feeling, like this is how I'm feeling and how can I get over this. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Communicate. You explained communication very well. You defined communication for other people who really didn't understand, or who thought that communication was just like we're sitting down and we're just talking, you know. It is that, but it's deeper than that in a relationship.
Yeah. it
And in a
is.
friendship too.
Yeah.
And then just to chime on that, for the fellas out there, I was listening to what she was saying, and it's our duty, you know, as men to create that safe space too, and open up the platform, because we never know the history or the experiences that our partners have gone through. And it is diligent for us when we get together to come together every week to talk about and have our love talks and schedule it and make it a thing, you know. And I see why families do these things as well, where they get together and they talk about, for instance, whatever the plans are for the household. You know, we're talking about different households too as well. So communication is everything. And also too, like roughly coming back to what I was saying, is laying down that foundation as a man and sharing that space gives a woman a lot of awareness that things are different here. And I wanted to chime in on that. It was a part you had said it in that where I dropped the idea of, this is why it's also important for men to be close to God, because a lot of the times we have our own philosophy in life, and when we are being stewardships of acquiring knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, we realize that there is old information there when dealing with things that have been before our time. And so a lot of the times, if I per se don't have the backing to say that things are going to be right, and sometimes that's not always the affirmation of the day right then and there, depending on the circumstances. Like, I can't tell you the same thing I've been telling you all day, even though this situation is a little bit different. So I have to have that backing from like words and scriptures and stuff like that, because in our situation and a couple of things that we had went through, one day we was walking to a Kanye school, and I was able to pull up the notes that we had got when we went to that church over there. No, it's not.
Okay.
And we're not religious people or anything, but we acquired information when going there, and we were like, we're gonna take notes, right? And I was able to go back to those notes and bring up what you were emotionally going through, right? That I didn't have. I had verbiage, but it wasn't the right verbiage that you needed to hear.
Yeah.
And it was something that I needed to find. And I was literally, as we were walking, I'm like, yo, them notes. Now this thought didn't come, like that wasn't my initial, like that's not my internal thought, like per se, like that's not something I'm like, oh yeah, what about them notes? Like that was definitely a Holy Spirit, God-given, divine intervention, because it just came out of nowhere, and I was like, what about those notes? And I was like, what about those notes, right? This is all happening like in milliseconds, right? And I was like, yo, I'm going through the notes, she's talking, and I'm like, I got something for you. And I'm like, and I find it, and I read it out loud, and I'm like, you remember? She's like, oh, I remember. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, this message is for you. And it was a very good moment to share it, but if you don't invite God in, a lot of the times I feel like that's why some men don't know that that's some of the foundations too when dealing with partners, right? It's like you were saying, I got this. To when? To how long? You know, even as men, to how long you got it just by yourself? When you going to involve the presence of God to help you along that, so you're not necessarily taking it all on by yourself. Right. And that's what I had to understand on my journey of being submissive and vulnerable to God, so I can receive that. So a lot of times I don't have to do the whole capacity of my brain trying to wreck it to do the logical thought to figure out some situation that I don't even need to do. Right. You know what I'm saying? You dig? Yeah. So with that being said, all right. So I think with that being said, I don't know if we go to our next question.
We got one more. It's a bonus.
One more. Okay.
So this one says, where is it at? It's number 2. How do you keep God at the center of your relationship, especially during challenging times?
Yeah, just like what Javette was speaking on there. Like, I think, yeah, it's important, and especially in challenging times in your relationship. It can be finance, anything like that.
Yeah,
you can lose sight of just beyond, or just being kind of stuck in that bubble of what's the challenge and facing the challenge, but finding peace in yourself with God before you approach these things. Like, finding peace in yourself is the best thing before being able to piece up a situation, a relationship, a challenging thing. I mean, it's you're kind of juggling too many things, and you're falling everywhere. And, it's just taking a moment.
Yeah.
And realizing that, trust in the way God is guiding you, trusting the path, and just trusting in God. And in that sense, as simple as that sounds, it's really helped me a lot, I think, just in a lot of the challenging times of just being, especially as we get older, a lot of these things are uncertain.
Right.
When you're building a life with somebody new or anything like that, things can seem uncertain and just endlessly challenging at times, but you find some kind of balance, because you even know in yourself and in your heart, everything, you're like, there has to be a balance. There has to be something that keeps 2 feet on the ground when I get out of bed in the morning, instead of just like
the world.
Instead of the world, the external things, the earthly things that kind of take over every day.
I think what you said was super valid. Do you have any other insight on that, or are you done?
No, yeah. I think just keeping God in the center of your relationship is important. I think just keeping trust in God.
Yeah.
Keeping trust in the process. It's just, in the most challenging times, I've prayed and I've given myself to God, and then, I forgot a month later.
Ooh.
Because I get caught up in the tornado, in the swirls. And you just kind of like, in the back of your head,
right.
Even in the most challenging times when you're just like, you're like, that you're like, okay, I got to give it up. I got to give it to God. But just like going back, a lot of this kind of,
repetition
circles back to the things that we're saying as far as like, I got this. Like, we're so used to just ourselves being like, it's me and my flesh and bone, my body dealing with this. But you really don't see the divine unless you give yourself up to it.
Yeah.
And, it's really like, it's reaching out and touching faith, man. It's just like, it's a hard thing to do.
Facts.
Faith is not right in front of you, or it's like, just grasp along and just let it be.
Yeah.
And things will figure it out. Just have a level head, and that's how you're going to get through a lot of this. And
yeah.
It helps your partner as well, vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Even, because not both people are always in that spiritual realm, are always just there.
Right.
But it always helps, I think, and like going back about the question about being, how's it helped in a relationship? It's at least, you can keep that reminder for each other. Because as long as one person is there to say, look, we, just give it to God and just keep doing what we do every day.
Yeah.
And anything that we feel like we are falling short on or anything, you can work on that in the meantime and just kind of simplify the whole thing. Because it's really more trivial than what we make it out to be.
Yeah.
With all these challenges and things.
Absolutely.
You got a teammate to rock and roll with.
Hey, so, Bob and Weed. Mike Tyson did his
big. So I think that's the best way to keep it centered, and I think it's truly helped a lot in even the most challenging times.
Love it. That was well said.
That was the last question, but for Janet,
we got read it for Janet. How do you keep God at the center of your relationship, especially during challenging times?
How do I keep God at the center of our relationships?
Especially in the
challenging times.
Yep.
But God rules everything that has to do with me as a person.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that's close to me, He's attached to that,
right,
which is my relationship. And I grew up speaking about God. God is at the tip of my tongue. It's not, I don't look for Him, He's within me, and I tell Matt all the time, even during our most hardest times, that remember what happened 2 weeks ago, which was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
But now we're here. And we're here because He's kept us here, or He's sustained us to this point.
Right.
So I think for me, God is just being there with us throughout the whole time, because I am Him and He is me. And I think it's like that for everybody else. I don't know though, but I feel like the Holy Spirit lives in each and every one of us.
Yeah.
That's why we can say God lives in us and we are God.
Right.
So I think for me, when I say I've introduced Him, or rather say I called Him in the most stressful situation, is a couple of times, mostly when we just like having some, it could be, I don't know, financial situations.
Yeah.
It could be us just bickering with each other. At the end of the day, I think He's so present in our relationship to where things don't go above level 4 with us.
Right.
He always sustains us in that level of like, if anything, I'm probably the one that's a little bit crazy sometimes, but it's also always on like a 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
But He keeps us in His bubble most of the time, to where things just don't go way out of control.
Yeah.
Because He's in me. He's always there, and I call Him all the time that, okay, we need to pay for this, and I don't know how it's gonna happen, but like how you've always been doing it, I need you to direct me, and I need you to tell me or show me which path to go. And because he's great and he's awesome and his promises are always amazing, things just always fall into place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to say I don't know how, because I know that it's him. If you're asking, if we're gonna say I asked God to do this, you can't come back and say, oh, I don't know how this happened. It's like,
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think my mom has taught me so much about the inner power that I have within me.
Yes.
To say the things that I want to see happening and watch them happen.
Right.
Because that's why she always says to me, it's very important what I say with my mouth. Because because I am God, what I say with my mouth, it's gonna happen. And then now I'm like, oh, I said this, and then now I did this to myself. But it's like I have so much great power within than to watch what I say.
Absolutely.
So I think when it comes to calling God into specific situation, I wouldn't say it's anything specific. God is all over in my relationship with Matt. I think he lives in it and he's a part of it, because we are the Holy Spirit together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, that was so deep. That was so deep. Awesome. Okay, I love that. No, do you want to share how we keep God in our relationship, in the center of our relationship? Do you want to share with the people?
I like how you just kind of passed the baton. I definitely asked you.
I'm interested in your view of that, actually, that question.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Kingdom.
Yeah. There was a couple of points that I heard within your statements, and how we do it is being active. I didn't understand it at first because I was looking at it from a religious perspective, and I'm not a religious person, but I grew up around religion. My mom was she was Christian. She was a Catholic. She grew up in Catholic. My dad was Baptist, stuff like that. So I grew up in church and stuff like that. And
at some point, I want to hear your perspective on religion.
Absolutely, yeah.
For another time.
Yeah, definitely. To make it short and sweet, if I was to claim to be religion, then I'm in the categories with the other religions, right? And so God's original intent was to send us here to bring the cultural heaven on earth. In order to bring the cultural heaven on earth, it is a nation. It means that if he's stating that it's a kingdom, that means it is a government, and any kingdom is a government. So in understanding that, if you are government, then that means you have citizens. And if you articulate and spot out when God is talking to us and trying to identify who we are in the Bible, he speaks of us as sons of God, saints, and citizens. He uses the word citizens. And so, understanding that Jesus Christ spoke and preached the king and the kingdom message, right? And that's where I identify that I am a citizen of the kingdom of heaven and not a religion. Because Jesus didn't speak about us being Christians. James didn't speak about it. Peter didn't speak about it. Job didn't speak about it. No, not Job, but all the prophets. It's John and James and Peter and Paul. None of them spoke about they didn't use the word Christian. Matter of fact, at that time, they were called pagans. And pagans had, they were what you would call religious people. They were religious people. They had multiple gods and things like that. But at that time, that was the verbiage of speaking about religious people. The word was pagans. So, finding my identity and understanding that I am a part of a citizen, I am a part of a kingdom, right? And that kingdom is the heaven on earth, right? And that's how I associate and understand that my rights here on earth is to do the bidding of God, which is to bring the culture of heaven on earth. And I position myself and understand that the verbiage is correct in that way, especially when doing the studies. Now, going back to your statement, how we center God in our relationship and how we've been doing it, I think it is an active, consistent approach. Matt tapped on about going throughout life, and you're supposed to be on a mission, not per se clear about the mission, but there's something that you are not on the mission about doing, right? All right. And so in saying that, you drift off into the world, and there's a statement that says, be ye not of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so a lot of the time things are trying to win our attention, win our attention by our lack of attention to where it's supposed to be, meaning they're tapping into our insecurities, or coming from a place of fear, or coming from places of lack. And so that's how it draws in on our weaknesses and takes us from the goal and the mission of God's plan for earth, for us to have dominion. And through him, as we have dominion on earth, he governs from heaven. And we have been on a mission, taking notes together. We have our mentors who speak about one of the guys I shared with you. Not only that, we understand Dr. Miles Monroe. Not only that, we understand being active in the kingdom is also prayer time. We wake up at 4 a.m. We be still sleeping though. We wake up at 4 a.m., get our prayer time in, go back to sleep. We incorporate Noel Kanya. We got her on the 10 Commandments, understanding the 10 Commandments. I think those are only a partial of the Constitution in the Bible. I look at the Bible as being a constitution because it tells us about our rights, tells us about the king's decrees, tells us about the promises, all these things of how we are citizens of the kingdom and how we take what the king has said, understand that as law, and understand how he will do what he said he will do. But we have to understand what that is, though. We have to understand how we can demand. You can't demand anything as a religious person. You can only come to God with your emotions. But if you come to God as a citizen, you can demand your rights as a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. And that's where the domainship comes in. God doesn't want anybody to plead and beg for things. It is a way of saying, you said this, here's where you said it.
Yes, the principle, and then you read the principle, you have the principle in mind.
Correct.
That you got from the Bible, like I think it's Proverbs 6 something.
Yeah. Something. Should
I
hear that?
It says,
make sure you're looking it up. Something.
I forgot what it's. I just forgot.
It just went blank.
But I think it was talking about. I think it talks about. It talks about how when you're lazy.
When you are lazy, you sleep too much. Something like sleeping too much and lazy.
Slumber.
Yeah,
and when I find it, I'll put it.
It's actually on the wall. It's on the thing right there.
Yeah, I don't want to do it.
But long story short, when you're lazy, something flees from you, or you won't receive the gifts or the promises from God.
No, it's actually if you're lazy, you're not gonna get anywhere. It's like you are, you sleep until like let me say past 12, and you expect to run a business. It's like you're not gonna accomplish anything by doing this.
Right.
You gotta be doing this, and in order for you to accomplish it.
Right.
But when I find it, I will definitely.
All right, moving forward, I got you. Thank you for bringing that.
Like
I took that.
I
But
literally just spoke. It just went. Oof.
Long story short, becoming aware. So staying active within the prayer, staying active within implementing in the household, staying active in the studying, staying active in note taking, and then having the one-on-one intimacy with the prayer time. Because even though we pray together, I understand that God wants you alone too as well.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason being is that you're delegating the time with the king to. There's a word called the cabinet, right? And this is what Caesar called the church. We'll talk about it. I said I was gonna share it one day, right? I ain't gonna share all of it, but God brought Jesus around that time during Caesar's rule of the Rome. Okay, I'm gonna slide. All right, go ahead. All right. Yeah, and so long story short, cabinet is what you would say that this is where the king appoints individuals. So you don't get voted in, you get pointed out. And so long story short, this cabinet of people is also your representatives. And what their job is to do is to learn everything from the king, understand how the king thinks, and whatever the king says, I have this vision, I want to do this, I want to do this. They take that and they make sure that whatever the king said he wanted to accomplish, they bring it to the world, or they bring it to the kingdom. And then there's other cabinets, so they just pass on the messages, and everything that the king says he wants, they know everything. They don't even give their own input about anything. It's not about their input. It's not about their personal opinion. Everything is focused on the king and learning the king's mindset so they can be one with the king. And so, long story short, what I realized on that journey of what we're doing is that you gotta, it's about getting the king's mind. One of the reasons why God has sent Jesus Christ down was to also reintroduce us on the ways of thinking like God, on how to think like God again. Right? Retrain us on how to think like God. And we lose sight of that a lot of the times because we're in the world, right? And what I had to define, long story short, to make this sweet and straight to the point, because there's a lot of information what you're asking, and it's not as easy summarized, but I'm going to say it like this. It's the consistent effort in targeting the prayer time, the research, the taking notes, the implementing it, the rights, understanding your rights, decrees, and not only that, defining to oneself on how to, what does heaven on earth look like? What does the kingdom of heaven on earth look like? What does the culture of heaven on earth look like? And by cultural, that means like we know what culture is. You know what your culture is back home, right? We know what American quote unquote culture is. I know what hip hop culture is. So what does the culture of heaven look like on earth, and how are we supposed to be spreading that? And so just being active and consistently being a scholar and learning this and staying toes deep in. As I'm at the job, I got them earbuds in. I'm not supposed to have them earbuds in. If I get called, them hoes will get fired. But guess what? I'm on it. And I'm playing what I need to hear all day, every day, so that I can acquire the information during those times where I'm not learning mentally, physically, or spiritually. So I need to be learning mentally, spiritually, if I'm not moving physically. So I think that's how we make God at the center, because it is an active approach of understanding. If you're a citizen, how do you show that you are following not only the laws of the land, not only the laws of your culture, you're a representative of the kingdom of heaven. You're a representative. That means an ambassador. And so that is my wrap up.
No, yeah, I see that. And it's important to seek it. Right?
Yes.
You gotta be active in seeking it. The answers don't come to you.
It don't, bro. That's why that quote. You already know that quote. Seek first. What is it? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and His righteousness, and all these things, like everything that we worry about on a daily basis: money, clothes, food, what we gonna eat, what we gonna wear, where we gonna go, lives. All that stuff that's paganism, which is people that's religious people thoughts.
Yeah.
If you're focusing on the things and not focusing your attention on the kingdom and the righteousness I found, because I didn't understand, messing with religion, I did not understand what righteousness meant. Right? I understood like a brief of like, oh, righteousness, I guess like you are doing things right, and I guess holy, but I didn't even know what holy was. It was like pure,
right.
And there was really no clear definition or explanation on what they were sharing. And I have been to multiple churches, and so holiness is in alignment with the highest authority. Holiness is in alignment.
You don't get lost.
All right, I promise, I won't. Holiness is upright with the highest authority, meaning God. That means you're in alignment as a citizen. You are following all the rules as a citizen. Like here in America, you follow the taxes, you stop at the red light, all that stuff, right? So you just basically understand that how you are in alignment with the highest authority. And that's all I have to say about that.
I love that.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, bye guys.
All right. So with that being said, guys, we have had so many things had happened in this interview today, but guess what? We got it done. We appreciate you guys for coming today. Yes, we did.
We got it.
We got
the
it.
show still went on.
All right, then. Tell them again.
Just that.
What it do, what it is, what's up. Yo, LocFam Kingdom Diaries in the building. Make sure if this content helped you along the journey and you found it of value, definitely smash the like button. We appreciate you guys for giving us the time in the day. And we see you having all the good you desire. So we will catch you on the flip side. Stay locked in. God vibes only.